Good evening, and welcome to the Tuesday, February 18th meeting of the Transportation Committee. Tonight, we have several members of the committee here, as well as several members of staff. And first order of business is the call to order. And second order of business is the approval of minutes. Do we have any comments or questions? Okay.
Hold on.
Oh.
I thought Bob was at our last meeting, but he's now listed in the attendees.
Bob Mohr.
Bob Mohr.
Yeah.
Okay.
I talked to him for quite a while after the meeting, and I hadn't talked to him in a while.
So I will amend that. I'll add.
Okay.
Give him some credit for coming.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll make one amendment to the minutes, and we can approve them next time. Perfect. Oh, no.
So with
don't
that one
approve them.
amendment,
Yep.
is there anyone that would like to make a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes with that one amendment.
And the second?
Second.
Great. Okay.
And then we'll take a vote? Oh,
Actually, I don't know if we do
I
that
don't know
here.
if we need to for this one.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All in
it's been a
favor?
I wasn't there, so I don't
There we go.
bit. Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
So with that out of the way, we will move on to our committee discussion. Before I jump in, I just have a couple of notes. So I know that we have several items on our agenda tonight, and in order to make sure that we give everyone time to speak and stay to our 1 hour time limit for our meeting, we ask that everyone who comes up to speak stays under the 5-minute limit. And I believe also that at this committee meeting, as opposed to town board meetings and planning board meetings, I believe that we ask that one representative from each group come up to speak. So let's see. I believe,
And
oh
just
yeah, go
for
ahead.
reference, that's specifically because we don't have a public participation section in our agenda, unlike the town board and the planning board.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that is correct. All right, so I think with that out of the way, let's move into our committee discussions. So our first item on our agenda is regarding the Willow Pond neighborhood. We have 3 sub-items regarding the Willow Pond neighborhood. So the first is the Sanders Farm Drive write-in, write-out request. So just to give everybody some background on this project, if you don't remember from last time, this project had previously been reviewed by the planning board, and since it's a PD district, it also goes to the town board. So now it is under review by the town board, and they've asked that the transportation committee review some of the questions that had come up. So yes, like I said, the first item is the write-in, write-out request. We had previously reached out to the New York State Department of Transportation regarding this intersection of Sanders Farm and 441. They let us know that a write-in, write-out at this location is not required, but it was basically up to the town if we wanted to include that or not. And so we're asking the committee members to consider a write-in, write-out. I'm not sure if we have a map of the location, just to give some context. So there is already a light at the 441 and Willow Pond intersection. So this is the next intersection to the left. So NISDOT had been asked to consider a traffic light at this location as well. According to the data, they responded that it was not warranted, but the write-in, write-out, they said, again, it was up to us, up to the town.
And for reference, specifically, they said it was up to the town as it is not necessary or required.
Yes.
That's a quote. But because it would be in the town's right-of-way area, they're not opposed to it. So that's why they're leaving it up to the town. If it was in their right-of-way area, I believe they would end up being the ones maintaining it.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'll ask the committee if they have any
We can
thoughts
open it.
about a right in, right out?
We can open it to discussion.
Yeah, open it to discussion, yeah. Any thoughts?
How
Or
could it be in
questions?
the town's right away?
So my understanding, if it would be behind, like, right here in this portion, and that would be the physical impediment that would generally
Oh.
make it a right in, right out. So that's the way it was explained to me by our engineer, our town engineer.
Without it going out to the range line, it's not going to do any good. It needs to go out to the range, to truly be
As in
effective
up
as a
here,
right
you
in,
mean?
right out. It needs to go out to the range line, which would be in the state's right of way.
Okay.
Putting it that far back, it'll just be a maintenance nightmare, hit it, knock over the sign, and everybody will make a left out of there just like they do now, right?
Yep.
So,
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
it would be useless to have it back that far back on the street. Anybody that pulled up there, they would just ignore it and go to the left. It wouldn't obstruct anybody. It's too far back. You would have to have a piece of it in front of the crosswalk and a piece behind in order to have that be effective.
yep.
Okay.
I
If
think
the
that-
town was to work with the DOT and have it further up where it would be appropriate, is that a measure that this committee feels the town should investigate and/or move forward with?
Is this again to reduce the traffic on Sanders Farms going all the way around to Willow Pond?
That is my understanding.
And is this related to the speed perception in that same corridor?
That is my current understanding.
I don't see this as being necessary.
Okay.
No.
I think a lot of the problems on Willow Pond is a perception, not necessarily reality. We did the counts, right? And we looked at the speed. We have speed data.
So we have speed data from 2021 for and I'm going to zoom out so you guys can see better. We have speed data from approximately here and here. It was noted that there were traffic impact studies for this area of Willow Pond. And that's specifically because there's currently proposed, I believe it's an 84 apartment unit on that piece of land. And I could be off by the number of apartments.
Wasn't there counts done? I can't see the name of that road there. No, on the east-west piece of Willow Pond.
This portion?
No.
Oh, east-west.
No, come
You
on.
mean here?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's still Willow Pond, actually.
Yeah, the whole loop is Willow Pond.
Yep.
yeah. So didn't we have counts for there and also speed data in there?
Not that I'm aware of. The most recent data that I saw
Not
was
by
what
the-
Sarah had just talked about in 2021. So, yeah, I don't believe that we had done recent counts in that area.
And my recollection, this is going back many years, is that's where a lot of the complaints were on that piece of Willow Pond. Is there another section here that is also of concern?
My understanding is that over, I'd say, the past decade, 15 years, there have been complaints for the section we just spoke about, this north-south, and this north-south. So most of Willow Pond Way, there has been concern about speeding. When we did the counts in '21, they weren't an item of note that the traffic calming measures were appropriate to be more than enforcement and education. So that's what was previously done. Currently, there's a number of items, as we will discuss tonight. My understanding is that there's at least one resident that wanted to speak on the point of speed cushions, so I'll invite them up at that point. And maybe they could elaborate. If you'd like me to, I can invite them up sooner. If you would like the resident perspective sooner than the speed cushion segment.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, if anyone would like to come up and speak for the Willow Pond.
So my
Neighborhood.
current understanding was that, hopefully she's here, is it Wendy Roche? We'll take Wendy first since she previously asked to speak. And feel free to come up to any microphone introduce yourself, provide your address, and then we'll have PCTV start the 5-minute timer.
Okay, Wendy Rosham at 61 Willow Pond. So I've been coming to a number of meetings, different boards, planning board, town board, transportation board. I've been coming to the transportation board since 2013. Basically everything that we've said. I'm kind of representing about 13 neighbors from Sanders Farm to the end of this proposed apartment development. Everything's fallen on deaf ears. It's only things happen after a tragedy, kind of in a way. Sanders Farm became a 3-way stop after a car wrapped itself around a tree at the corner. We got a pedestrian crossing sign after a woman was finally hit in a crosswalk trying to cross from Willow Pond over to Crown Oak to get over to Wegmans. We just kind of gave up. We stopped fighting. We started taking things into our own hands. We put our own selves out in the street to stop traffic. So when you're telling me that there's not, maybe your traffic counts don't show that there's a problem, but we're telling you that there's a problem. I wouldn't have been coming here since 2013 if there hasn't been a problem. I've lived there since 2006. Okay, I have 3 children. My 3 kids are one of 13 kids in that very small stretch who can't ride their bikes. It is an S-shaped curve. If you take a look at your own map there, it's an S-shaped curve. A right in, right out would actually be ridiculous because it would only send more traffic in front of my house, and I'm right in between Sanders Farm and Willow Pond. So unless somebody wants to actually take a look at ways to calm the traffic that speeds through there, I'm completely opposed to that. It's not just my section of Willow Pond. It is the straightaway from Penfield Road to the end up at the top of the development too. That is a speedway. No one seems to care about that. Again, same stuff I've been talking about since 2013. Going right from Sanders Farm, going up to where the apartments are, people speed through there. You know what I was told in 2014 is that my biggest problem were renters in the neighborhood, but yet you guys want to allow another apartment community, the 4th potential apartment community in our neighborhood, by the way. So if renters are my problem, we're going to add 88 more units. That makes absolutely no sense without actually taking into consideration ways to calm the traffic. The majority of people who come through are probably okay, but the people who speed through there are ridiculous. Education's a joke, enforcement's a joke. It does not happen. It is exhausting. I have a full-time job. I have 3 kids. I don't have time for this, and nothing happens. I invite you to come through my neighborhood and sit there and see what it's like. Like, I moved in there so my kids could ride their bikes, have fun, play safely in the front yard. They can't really do that. A neighbor's son almost got hit by a bus, when he was getting off the bus, almost got hit by a car. It's a transportation safety video now. Like, that's absurd. What has to happen? If you guys continue to ignore it, you're culpable if something happens to one of the kids in our neighborhood, if it happens to a resident in our neighborhood, if somebody actually gets hurt or killed. This is on you, because I've been talking about this for over 10 years. It makes no sense. I don't understand why you guys are against fixing a problem. We're not making this up. It's legitimately there. I'm not the only person. I might be the person who's representing the problem, but it's a problem. So I don't know how many more meetings I have to come to. Frankly, it's exhausting. I really want to throw in the towel. But this is the project, this apartment project is in my backyard. It's physically in my backyard. It's in the backyard of 4 or 5 of us. So we're trying to figure out how to make this work. The problem is not just on Willow Pond. It goes out to Penfield Road, which I realize is a state road, and everyone wants to say we can't do anything about that. But if you look at the number of accidents from 5 Mile to 250, you cannot be ignoring the fact that you guys have traffic and accident, issues with speed in the and really that stretch of road. There's someone else here who wants to talk about that tonight too, about their traffic situation. But if you're going to allow 80 some more apartments, the 4th apartment community, and we also have 3 business complexes in our community. We're the only neighborhood in Penfield with this stuff, but yet nobody wants to take a look at how to solve the problems that we have. But yet it's okay for us to go and stand and step into cars and step into traffic and say, slow down. That's absurd. That can't happen. You guys don't have our back. I'm exhausted from this, truly. I'm sorry. I don't know how many more people we have to talk to. And I've been coming for 12 years. Like, this is absurd. So that's all I have to say. But if we have other neighbors here who want to talk about it, they deserve to be heard as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. So I think we'll leave it to discretion if we have more residents from the whole neighborhood. If there's a different topic in the neighborhood that Wendy did not specifically address, I think it would be appropriate that we can let a different resident come up and address their other topic. I will preface you introducing yourself with, so everyone in the room is aware this is a technical advisory committee. So we are not voting on apartments coming in. We are not voting on any other development project in the town. Anything that this committee recommends would be a recommendation to the town board. That is the only board that we are advisory to, but just for reference for everyone.
That's correct. Yeah, and sorry to interrupt, but and the town board has specifically asked us to look at a couple of issues regarding this neighborhood, and so.
So that's why we're reviewing it.
Correct, yeah.
Feel free to introduce yourself, provide your address, and then they'll start the clock.
All right, I'm Janelle James. I live at 139 Willow Pond, which is around the bend from where Wendy lives. And I have seen the same exact thing. I live directly across from the Willow Pond Apartments. Like, my house is right in front of their parking lot. And same things, the traffic, not just the traffic, it's the speed at which people go, and I don't mean to single you out, but I take offense saying that it's perception versus reality. The reality is, I've almost been hit by a car 4 times walking down my street, and that's not okay. People not paying attention. My children ride their bikes, and like Wendy said, you know, someone's going to get hurt, and something has to happen. And as far as enforcement goes, do you want me to continue screaming at people when they drive 40 miles an hour past my house, not paying attention to my kid on the road? We need help, and that's why we're coming here, is for help. And it's not just the part of Sanders Farm. Obviously, that is emphasized right now due to the apartment complex that I know you have no control over. But, I mean, that's a reality. If that comes in, that adds a tremendous amount of vehicles in and out of our neighborhood each day. And the traffic study that was done, I welcome anyone to come sit on my front porch and watch. The numbers that they gave in that traffic study are laughable. It's not accurate. We need to do something before, like Wendy said, before someone gets killed, and I certainly hope it's not one of my children, because it's not safe. We have to do something and not just get blown off. And I know this is my first time coming to this meeting, so thank you for this opportunity to speak. Just something needs to be done, simple as that.
Janelle, where do you live?
I live, where am I?
Do you want to tell me your address?
I'm 139. So there's 2 entrances to Willow Pond Apartments, and I'm like the U shape of Willow Pond. I'm in the back there. I don't have my glasses on, so I apologize.
It's right here for reference.
And that's near where
Yep.
we did speed study?
It is, yes.
And what were the results of that speed study?
Off the top of my head, yeah, I think Sarah's pulling them up now. I don't have them right in front of me, but.
I can pull them up.
Okay, yeah.
And Wendy, where do you live? So 61?
Yeah, she lives on the S curve of Willow Pond.
You point that out too?
Yeah, so if you,
In this area.
yep, so right in there, yep. And there's about 12 of us in there.
And you're concerned about speed in there as well?
Yeah, the S curve, because it's also a blind curve, so if I stand at the end of my driveway, I can't see around the corner either direction. And there's several of us who have that issue there.
Okay, so I would want to see the speed data on this corridor, because this is already
There was no speed study done there, there was traffic, I
I know,
believe. but it
so
was a long
we need to
time
do
ago.
that, because this already has natural traffic calming already built into it. That S-curve is a natural traffic calming method. The narrowness of the roadway is another. I'd be very curious to see if we really do have a speed problem through there.
It is currently the plan. At this time, we can't do traffic counts due to the weather. We need it to be good enough weather to put down the traffic counters, but
This other leg, I can see more potential for speed.
You mean here?
Yes.
There and on the other side though too, right from the light.
I would really need to see the data on your part of Willow Pond, but the other one, I can see more potential, certainly.
So for reference, you asked the counts from 21. One was done here, and that was an 85th speed of 33 and a 25 right here. And the other was done right here,
What was that?
and that was a 29 and a 25.
See a thing.
So the 29 and 25 is within normal, what you would expect. The 33 and the 25 is a little high. So that side over there is a little high.
For reference.
Can I ask a question on the procedure, like how this works though? Because if the town board is set to approve a change of use permit, which they were going to do had they not gotten derailed at their last meeting, the fact is they were going to approve a change of use permit without any parameters being put into place to help fix a problem that we're having that this project would add to. So it's a little backwards to me as to how other things, they got Mark IV to agree to pay for the pedestrian crossing stripes to be repainted, which were supposed to have been repainted after the oil and stone project years ago. It makes no sense. It's like, that's great that they're going to do that. That doesn't do anything for the traffic that's going to increase in that stretch from Sanders Farm to Willow Pond. So it's a little like we're being pacified. They're like, oh, the transportation committee's looking at it, but nothing's being done proactively.
So I'll interrupt you, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
So I think we're talking about two different concerns. So one of them is the added traffic or potential added traffic from the apartment complex that would be potentially going through Sanders Farm to and from, and through Willow Pond Way to and from. That generally, we would not expect to be major additional traffic in these two side areas, the north-souths that we're talking about. So those are two separate issues. The items currently on the agenda for Willow Pond neighborhood are the right-in, right-out request that the town board requested we review, the speed cushion or temporary speed bump request that the town board asked that we review, and the RRFBs, which are rectangular rapid flashing beacons for the crosswalk that was previously discussed at the November meeting, and the result of that was we need to do speed counts before we can make a formal decision.
But the speed cushion issue was to what? My understanding by talking with Candace Lee is that was supposed to be what was being discussed to help mitigate the traffic between Sanders.
That is my current understanding.
yes, and I believe that we've kind of jumped around a little bit, but I believe that was the next item on the agenda.
Yeah, so we just haven't gotten to that part yet because the committee felt it was beneficial to
So I
have you
would
speak
simply
sooner.
say a right-in, right-out makes no sense because it will literally take traffic from where Janelle is and send them angrily past my house because they can't turn left.
Sure. So we're getting into kind of a gray area when it comes to procedure for the committee. Generally, again, because we do not have public participation, we do not have a conversation with the residents. I understand that that's inconvenient, and I understand that that's not ideal, but that is the situation with the board, with the committee. And that's because this is an advisory committee and not a board of the town. So we, again, are advisory to the town board, and we make recommendations. We do not make formal decisions for the town. With that, I do appreciate your input. I think it would be appropriate, unless you have anything additional that we have not already spoken about, to have the committee have their discussion. And I wouldn't be surprised if they touch upon some of the things that you just stated.
So who do you, like, we've been to so many meetings, like, that's
So-
the thing, like, we keep getting pushed off to different things, like, oh, talk to transportation, do this, like, we've been doing this for like the better part of almost a year, like.
So I do understand the frustration. The town board makes the decision when it comes to a PD on the use. PD is,
Plan development, I believe.
Thanks, a plan development district. The planning board makes the decision when it comes to a development project per the apartments.
Right.
So those are the two decision-making bodies. Again, these items have been brought to us as a request from the town board. So I can't speak to how they make the decision. I don't get to make the decision. Staff here, which are specifically Aimee, Owens, myself, Sarah Waterman, and Joe Perkins, we are staff liaisons that give advisory information to the committee. The committee, as a committee of residents, reviews that information and makes a recommendation to the town board based on that. Some items we can't make the recommendation without the pertinent information. When it comes to the town board making a decision with or without information that anyone feels that they should have, we don't have a say in any of that. And I do get it's frustrating.
There's no way to get built into them approving a PD change, addressing the traffic issues and concerns, because they were set to do that without you guys even having a meeting.
So I can't speak to that, and I can't speak to if they were ready or not to make a decision. And I'm sorry, I do understand the frustration, and I understand you've all been to these different meetings a number of times. That is the procedure for this committee, so that is how we'll have to proceed. Okay.
I just have one more thing to
Yeah,
say.
sure. Yeah, I understand you had
just
about
one
2 minutes
quick.
left.
If it turns out not to be a speed issue, which I see your point, maybe it's not, maybe I'm just a crazed woman seeing things. I don't think I am, but then how do we enforce it? We don't have a police department, we don't have anything. So I'm just going to leave that question because that's something that we need to figure out.
We can touch up in this meeting upon the traffic calming measures that we can put into place.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
With that, I'd like to go back to the items formally on the agenda. I feel it might be appropriate for us to address all of the 3 items at the same time because they affect each other. So I'll address which each of those are right now. Those are the right-in, right-out request for Sanders Farm onto 441, the speed cushion or temporary speed bump request, and the rectangular rapid flashing beacons at the crosswalk, which would be this crosswalk here. I would like to open it back up to committee discussion.
Where's the origin of the right-in, right-out? Where did that come from?
The origin?
Yeah, where did that
I
idea or
believe
concept
that was a resident request. I'm not sure if that was a singular resident or multiple residents, but it was referred to NISDOT, and they had responded to us as we previously stated.
Based on the email communications we have, I can say that was a request that the town board asked NISDOT to consider.
Did NISDOT give any accident data or anything on that intersection?
They did not.
I believe they provided it to us now.
They provided a response email that thanked us for reaching out. They said, based on the traffic impact study that was provided by Pastor Associates, we do not believe a traffic signal would be warranted at the intersection of 441 with Sanders Farm Drive, as the volumes are very low and drivers have access to the signal at Willow Pond Way. As to the right-in, right-out, we do not believe this is necessary or required, but we would not be opposed if that was something the town wanted to pursue, with the consideration that if the town was to pursue that, this committee could make a recommendation that the town pursue it, and then the town would need to do a study to determine if it's necessary or beneficial.
And I believe we would also be reaching out to the community.
Yes. We would need to get community support for that.
Correct, yeah.
So that's not a short process for reference.
I don't see enough data here to make that decision, and my gut's telling me it's...
Something to consider with that, if the town was to pursue design and all of those things, and resident input, and we were to move forward with it, it would realistically potentially lead to concerns with people turning in left, taking a left turn in
From
illegally
441.
from 441 and taking left turns out illegally from Sanders Farm. And it would likely push more traffic to the light at Willow Pond Way. Those are just potential items with that. For us, if the committee feels it's appropriate to do more research, we can do that. If the committee feels it wouldn't be beneficial, we would acknowledge that, but it's really open to the committee for discussion.
I mean, is there any accident concerns at that intersection? Because that's really the only thing you're solving by your right in, right out.
Not that we are currently aware of, but we can look into the accident database.
So it sounds, I'm hearing maybe we need some additional data, or
I think at the
Or you-
very
or we
least,
think-
somebody should do at least a quick look at the accident history there.
okay, we can leave this on the,
I also don't feel like that is even addressing their concerns.
right,
So
Totally different.
yeah.
I would, my suggestion is we do a quick look at the accident history there. I'm not talking about a deep dive and, but just enough. I mean, you're looking for left turns and right angles. So what's the overall history here, and is there really a problem there that we're trying to address with right in and right out? I don't see that having a huge impact on
Yeah.
their concerns.
No,
Right,
no, I would agree.
Okay.
okay. So we'll leave that on as a held
As a
item.
held item.
Just in the interest of time, we can look at, so the speed cushion or temporary speed bump request. So just as a reminder, based on the 2021 counts, we'd previously looked at speed humps in this area, and they were not warranted. But the town board has asked us to consider speed cushions and, or temporary speed bumps in this area. And I'll shoot this over to Sarah, yeah.
So previously, we looked at speed humps on the two north-south roads, portions of Willow Pond Way. Back when we did that, it was deemed that it was not, based on the traffic calming study, it was not deemed an appropriate measure to have a physical impediment. For reference, when we're doing the traffic calming analysis, we look at the shape of the road, the speed from the 85th percentile when we do counts, and a number of other things. With that, we have 3 different methods that we can potentially employ for traffic calming. Those are enforcement, which would be enforcement through the sheriff's department, and that's ticketing, giving warnings, those types of things. We do, separate from that traffic calming measure, ask at certain times based on resident requests if the sheriff's office can do special, not ticketing, but reviews of areas where they sit and watch for speeding, and give tickets based on that. With enforcement, with education, we generally use the radar feedback, speed feedback signs. We have a temporary one that goes around town and move that as appropriate and as requested or deemed appropriate by this committee. The last, and it's more of a major item, is if the traffic calming review shows that a physical measure is needed, that's where we start considering different options in those regards. A speed hump, speed bump, speed cushion are all considered physical measures that we would implement. As we discussed previously, counts were done on the north and south roads, but were not done in this bend, which is, to my understanding, where the town board is considering if that's necessary or beneficial. So as a staff member, that would be my first recommendation to get counts. I understand that the timing isn't great for that right now, as we need a dry road to put them down on, and to not have plows going over them. So that would be my first recommendation. With that, I'll open it back up to the town, to the committee.
I think one thing we've asked the participants to do is to identify a time or times that they see the traffic really busy. You know, it could vary. I know one of the persons that spoke mentioned her children are out playing, and I'm guessing that's after school as opposed to, that would help us if we identify or talk with the representative from the sheriff's office. You know, we often solicit their help, but they do need a specific time because, you know, we are limited with that enforcement because the sheriffs cover quite an area of the community here.
If the resident wants to stay till after the meeting, I can touch base, or I can follow up with an email, if you can provide that, and we can get that information.
Dan, does 85th percentile take into account like peak times of the day? Does that sort of correct for that? So if between the 4 and say 7 p.m., you're going to probably see a higher volume of traffic, maybe higher speeds than you might at a different time?
That's possible. It depends on how they did their data.
Right.
So if they're just looking at a small window, then the 85th of that window is what you're going to get. If you're doing the counts through the whole day, then you can get an 85th for the whole day. And normally what we would expect to see is, you know, speeds of, you know, 5 miles an hour over this posted speed limit is pretty typical. When you start getting past 5 miles an hour, then it's something that we look a little closer at. That's why I said, so on the west side, I'm less concerned than I am on the east side. I'm suspecting that the east-west piece of Willow Pond, where the Addison is, that those are also going to fall within what we would expect as a typical range. But before I personally would consider putting speed humps through all of this, I'd want to see all that speed data. And I'd want to see it for more than just one piece of the day. I'd want to see it through, you know, pretty much from peak hour to peak hour.
So for reference, when we're doing our traffic count analysis, our 85th percentile is we get we get one direction and the other separate, and we do it for the span of 7 days.
Right, so
we're
it's a
not doing-
composite of all the counts. Yeah, so
It
that
is,
is
so it's
counted for
not
that.
one specific time slot, it's not
Right.
the peak times, it's that 7-day period, so that we can ideally get a full 7 24-hour days.
So since the speeding concerns have been on various legs of here, and one is TBD, okay, these speed cushion suggestion, recommendation, or possibility, is that intended to be throughout this neighborhood or just on one of these legs or all of them?
My current understanding is that the consideration by the town board is for this S-curve section.
Okay, so just the, let's call it the east-west,
Yes,
So
so
that-
just the north side,
which we don't have
east-west.
data in, but the other ones being, already have data from 2021,
We do, yes.
assuming nothing is.
Right, but that doesn't address Janelle's concern because she lives down in the lower part.
Right, that's why that's why I wanted to know if they were thinking about them down here. Now,
And-
one is at 29 and the other's at 30, and that was 21 data. Nothing's changed down there, correct?
There's no new developments
Okay.
on both of those sides.
Other than residents moving in
Yes,
or out or
yeah.
different people?
Or,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
And refresh my memory, how old is the last count data?
It's from 2021.
21,
Yeah, I don't think you need to redo that one.
no.
Yeah. it
Not
was
unless there's some.
September.
Has anything really changed? Are they here?
I mean, it's still busy. like-
Right, but there's no, is it,
No additional.
But if you're saying that there's not a lot of data, like there's not a lot of traffic, then I would challenge that, and I'd want more accurate data to see, is that,
no, we're saying, has
misunderstanding.
anything changed in the area that would increase traffic since
oh,
2021?
nothing developmental.
It would seem like, I'm not in their area and I'm here for something else, but I support what's happening. And it would seem that every year away from that COVID window we get, more people
Yeah,
are.
Hey, I'm sorry to interrupt you. If you don't have a microphone, you can't be on the recording, so if you don't mind coming up to the front, I'm so sorry.
I'm almost done.
Just so that it can be on the record.
My bad, I'm bending the rules.
And if you can provide your name and address, I'm sorry.
I'm Sandra Myers, and I live at the corner of Beard and 441. So the yard with all the cars in my yard. And I'm just speaking to say that every year we get further away from COVID, I would think the traffic would be increasing because people are going back to work in their offices as opposed to in their living rooms. So that might be a factor, but not a physical factor.
Sure.
But, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. For reference, those counts on the east side, the ADT, which is the average daily traffic, is 1,466. On the west side, it's 430. So that makes it a little less surprising that the east side also has a higher speed, just because of the amount of traffic.
Are there any additional questions from the committee regarding speed cushions? Or are we just kind of waiting for the counts?
And I will give you the reference that generally the town doesn't install speed bumps in areas that are not parks. That's a physical impediment for maintenance for the road for the town. Speed cushions, we don't currently have them, but that's, again, why it's at this committee. And for reference, speed cushions are similar to speed humps, except they have a cutout in the center so that emergency traffic can go through.
Which is going to lead to another issue. And with the weather we have here in the wintertime, those areas when we plow the road would be full of snow and ice because we can't plow through there. There's a gap that our plows won't fit in. So this time of year, that would cause an icy condition in those areas between those humps.
So it's just
Definitely
something additional
concern.
to consider.
Yeah. All right.
Are there any other items that the committee feels we should provide at the next meeting to review this item?
Well, not by the next meeting, but I think we need data.
Or whatever appropriate meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Putting in any kind of physical barrier system requires data to support it.
Yeah. We'll put that on the list for the spring, once the roads are dry. And I believe our last item, RFBs, as Sarah mentioned earlier, the reflective beacons. We are currently in the process of finalizing a policy for RFBs in the town that will eventually have to go to the town board. But for the RFB request at the crosswalk, I believe we need counts for that as well. So between the counts that are needed and the fact that the policy isn't completed yet, I think this one would also be a held item to be considered in the future. Okay, that was Willow Pond. Does anyone have anything else to discuss regarding Willow Pond? Any questions?
Can I make some commentary on this from another resident's perspective?
If I would say that since
Very constructive feedback.
I would say that if you have any additional items that haven't already been discussed, we can discuss those here. Otherwise, I think we need to move on to the next topic.
One recommendation.
Please come to the microphone.
Yeah, if you are going to talk, you have to come to the mic. Otherwise, it won't be on the record. So if you could just state your name and address, please.
My name is Joe Powell. I live at 5 Sanders Farm, which is right at the corner of Willow Pond and Sanders Farm. And, you know, I kind of see it from both directions. People exiting onto Sanders Farm from 441. I also see people coming down Willow Pond Way, and I sit right at the corner, so I see people cutting that corner basically all summer long, especially during rush hour times. There's really nothing slowing them down. There are stop signs, but those are, as I've said before, the planning board, those are stoptional to the majority of traffic. And so I would be in support of speed humps as a momentum decreasing measure, just because people, they come through that curve and they're maintaining momentum, they're cutting it like a race car, and they're going out to Sanders Farm. So a speed bump on Sanders Farm, I think, would be advantageous to slow people down as they come into the neighborhood, and then same thing on the west side there. Just one other thing regarding the right turn in, right turn out. I think I was somebody who originally recommended this as part of the planning board meetings that I attended. But since it sounds like that is not favorable generally to not getting into the DOT right of way, something I've noticed as compared to, I think it says Meadowvale Drive, that's further west, is that the turn off of 441 is very long. It's a long radius turn, and people can come in and maintain a lot of momentum onto Sanders Farm. And generally, people come around that turn, they might be doing 20 miles an hour already, and then they hit the gas and they're speeding already. And so, as sort of maybe an alternate to the right in, right out, it would be to reduce the radius of that turn, slow people down on 441 as they exit to Sanders Farm, which will in turn reduce momentum generally. Yeah, I support what everybody else has said. My kids are out there on the corner all summer long. I see people whipping that corner. I've had to step in front of cars because they completely ignored the stop sign. They come down Willow Pond on the west side there, turning left onto Sanders Farm, and they don't stop. They cut the corner like a race car. So they start on the outside, they come to the inside right next to my yard, and then they're back on the outside maintaining their speed. And there's no police enforcement. I know we have the county. I've never seen an officer there in 8 years. And I'm guessing that's something that won't change either since 2021, is that the police won't be there to actually enforce the speed limit, to enforce that, yes, there are stop signs and you must stop. And I don't see anything changing until we provide a physical impediment to people just doing whatever they want. And that's all I'll say. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Yeah. I will note that any changes to 441 are under the jurisdiction of the state, and so the town does not have any jurisdiction over that. That's something that we could pass along, but we don't have any power to change that.
We just have the place we're just in the place where we can make the recommendation.
Correct. Yes.
Unless there's more discussion from the committee members on this topic, I think it'd be appropriate to move into Panorama Trail.
Yes. Anything?
Okay. Seeing none, I'll introduce Panorama Trail if you're okay with that, Aimee?
Yeah. Yep. Go for it.
So Panorama Trail speed concerns, there's 2 items on the agenda. The request for reduced speed limit, which is a follow-up from a previous meeting, and the request for radar speed feedback signs. Those radar speed feedback signs are generally temporary signs for the town that we put out. This request is for a permanent one. At this time, I'd like to invite, who would like to be I think it's Jerry, right?
You want to do the summary so I don't have to spend all my time doing it?
Oh, sorry. So, yep, great.
Thank you.
So previously, we discussed at, I believe it was our October meeting and our November meeting, items pertaining to this. There's been a number of requests for this section of, and I'll pull up a map, this section of Panorama Trail. It's the lower portion north of Penfield Road, for reduced speed, for crosswalks, for speed humps, different measures that 1 or 2 of the residents at a time have requested. My understanding is that 2 of the residents that have made the requests are here tonight. A different one found either didn't respond or found the previous decision acceptable. So I don't believe they're here tonight. With that, I'd be happy to have you come on up.
My name is Jerry Schaefer. I live at 508 Panorama Trail. This is my first physical meeting here. I've sent the information in the past, and I think the information from before, I've come at it from the incorrect perspective. We were trying to put crosswalks in, was my request, and I think someone up at another street up from us, it might have been Mountain Lane, was requesting speed bumps, or somebody was. That wasn't us. But I know people in Lost Mountain and people in the apartments below us, people in Mountain Road and the people on Huntington Meadows all have an issue with the speed on that road. And it's not so much just speed. If it was a straight road and there weren't any embankments, you can't see it on there. But you can't see as you come around the turns because there's banks there. And then during the summer, it's full of vegetation and trees and overhangs. So the visibility for someone trying to pull out, and our issue was our pedestrians try to get across the road. They have a hard time doing it because of the vehicles are accelerating. They're accelerating from a stop down in Penfield Road up, and they're accelerating from a 25-mile-an-hour zone from the north. So they come around and they're accelerating. It's very difficult to gauge how fast those vehicles are doing. And when you did your study, the engineer study showed that the 85 percentile was 40 miles. That's at the top end of what's acceptable. So that means a fair amount of those are doing between 40 or 50 or miles an hour more in a very short space. So it's like a racetrack for about a 0.7 of a mile. And then they hit a 25 mile, and they slow down for the intersection at the south end of Penfield Road. So what we're requesting is that rather than have it piecemeal, just make the whole road 25 miles an hour. And Huntington has a crosswalk that was just put in across there. You're coming around a turn, and that's just when it goes from 25 to 35. So it's ironic that you got people they think they can speed up, and then you turn around, you got a crosswalk. And I don't know, does anybody here traverse down Huntington Meadows on a regular basis?
I do.
It's very difficult to pull out of there. It's like a guesswork, where they're coming, because you can barely see around them. That should, at the very least, that part, and I don't live up that far, at least that should have been 25 miles an hour. Now, where you left it, the recommendation last time was have law enforcement deal with the speed. And as people know, and as you know, they are not going to do that. It's not safe to do that. Now, our HOA president is a retired captain from the Sheriff's Department here in Monroe County, and he could speak to how unsafe it is to stop on that road. I happened to come across a sheriff stopped a vehicle there, and I don't think it was for a traffic violation, but it backed up traffic. There's no shoulders on that road. Those embankments and the sides, you can't pull off. So all of a sudden, this is around 10 o'clock in the afternoon, all the traffic backed up and the cars are coming around screeching because they're backed up and almost causing accidents. So to ask law enforcement, that was how we left at the last meeting, to deal with this, I think it's too costly. I think it's a waste of money. I don't think it's safe. And I don't know, the only thing we can do is lower the speed limit. As you said earlier, someone said most vehicles will go 5 miles over the speed limit. So if we can lower that 85 percentile down to 30 miles an hour, then it'll give people a chance. As it stands right now, it's like a crapshoot. And people like walking up and down that road. Any questions?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for your time.
And we will have the discussion.
Okay, that's a confusing point that I have. Now, how do I find out what the recommendation is that you make? Do you make a recommendation to the town board?
So if the committee makes a recommendation, then that is reflected both in our minutes, and if it is a recommendation for anything that the town board would move forward with, whether there's a sign, a speed limit change, those types of things, that would go to the town board, and then they would choose to or not to discuss it at a meeting and have a resolution for it.
Okay, can I ask this question? Why would you not lower the speed limit?
I think so.
No, could you give me a reason why you would not?
Well, at this time, I think we need to let the committee have their discussion in order to discuss your question.
No, I'm
so-
talking technically.
We will review that, I'm sure. So
There's
it's
not a technical reason?
No, we will review the technical reason, and I know it has been discussed at a previous meeting, but this committee, because it's an advisory committee, it's not meant to have a discussion with the residents in that regard. That's something staff is completely willing to do with you separately from this meeting. But the committee has a discussion based on the comments from the residents and the requests from the residents. So those are separate items. So if you would like the committee to discuss it, I'll ask you to sit back with the audience and we'll have the discussion.
Okay, just last time, one of the other times, you gave us technical reasons why no speed bumps. That wasn't my request. I understood that. I put in the request to do crosswalks. Just try to slow the traffic down. I understood why you couldn't do that. So this time, last time you said there wasn't a reason given. The answer that was given was there's somebody here from law enforcement, and we'll recommend and see what they will do with it.
If you would like to have it.
No, I'm just recapping for the record here what happened the last meeting. I never heard back. There was no reason given the last time. It was just a recommendation.
I can provide you documentation of that, and if you'd like to have a discussion after the meeting, I can stay and explain the technical reasoning for you.
Okay.
But I think it'd be appropriate for the committee members to have the discussion.
Do they have it publicly, or does
They're going to do it as soon as you sit back in the row, in the audience.
You do it publicly?
They'll do it right
Yes.
now, yeah. And
Okay.
it's being
Thank you.
recorded as well.
Thank you.
Okay, so I believe the request was to lower the speed limit along the stretch of Panorama Trail that we just discussed from 35 miles an hour to 25 miles an hour. So I will open it up to the committee for discussion.
When we collected the data the last time, was it only at the south end?
No, it was at both, I'm sorry to interrupt, Sarah.
It's okay.
Go ahead.
Huntington Meadows was one of the
Yeah.
locations. That was a 40 and a 35 85th percentile speed. And then the other one was Lost Mountain Trail, so approximately here.
Yep,
Again, that was a 40 and a 35.
and a 35.
Yep.
But we haven't collected any in the 25 mile per hour.
Oh, up at the top of Panorama
Yes.
Trail? No, to be honest, I don't believe that I haven't looked at the list to know when the
can tell
last
you.
time we did the count was,
Yeah.
but I actually,
Because we did.
Don't believe that
there was
In
some.
2016,
Okay.
we took a count near Farmbrook, which is in the 25
Okay.
mile per hour area. That's about up here. That was a 33 and a 25.
So-
And for reference, the 85th percentile speed is what we try to pull when we're doing traffic counts. When you're designing a road, you design it to the 85th percentile speed because that is generally considered what drivers are comfortable
Right.
doing.
Regardless of the
So-
sign.
Yes, so
Correct.
that is why we refer to the 85th percentile speed,
Correct.
both for our counts and for speed limit design.
Right.
I think Jerry misunderstood what I was saying.
Would you mind clarifying?
So, this is for Jerry. The 85th percentile is not driven by the posted speed limit.
Correct.
So just lowering the posted speed limit isn't going to necessarily lower the 85th percentile. It's not connected that way. The 85th percentile is basically what people are comfortable driving that roadway. So, and that's what we're talking about when we try to post them appropriately. So if I posted at 20 miles an hour, people are still going to do 40 miles an hour through there.
Can I address you that answer?
I'm sorry?
Can I address that answer?
No, we're going to,
Most people go 5 miles over the speed limit.
That's not
That's
true.
where I disagree with you.
that's,
So that's the, I'm sorry, this is part of why we don't have a discussion like this.
He was addressing me.
I know, you're not doing anything wrong, I understand
I'm doing
completely. Dan is, sorry. Dan is saying that when you are designing roads and when you are evaluating roads, 85th percentile speed is what you're using. For reference, for whoever is not aware, Dan's background is in traffic engineering, and that is why he is sharing that information. That is one of my backgrounds as well, and that's, again, why I'm sharing that information. when Dan says that drivers generally go 5 over the speed limit, that is because the 85th percentile is designed to be in this middle of a range of 10 miles per hour. So most people go between 5 under the speed limit and 5 over the speed limit. Dan only addressed that item above because that is what's currently pertinent to this discussion, for reference in the transportation engineering field.
I just didn't want to leave you with the wrong impression, Jerry, that's all.
Yeah.
No,
So-
I spent 2 days reading books about this, so I got the 85 percentile down.
Okay. With that,
Yeah.
we have limited time. I don't want to rush the committee in making a decision. I will acknowledge we have previously as a committee made a decision on this, and I will acknowledge that there was a request for radar speed feedback signs. So I think at minimum, we need to have a discussion about this at the next meeting based on timing. So I'm sorry that might potentially mean that you feel the need to come to the next meeting. I don't want to make a quick decision and then have the potential repercussions for that. So if the committee is favorable, I think we put this as a held item. And based on our timing, I think we'll have to push the next item, which is Meadowview Drive speeding concern, to the next meeting. And if we can do a speed count in this time, we will try to. It'll just be based on the weather. Is the committee favorable for that? Okay, seeing at least one nodding head, thank you. I think that's the appropriate next step at this time. With that, I think it would be appropriate for Aimee to adjourn the meeting unless there's items that the committee members feel we should bring up so that we can do any investigation for the next meeting.
Seeing none, we will call this meeting adjourned at 6:01 PM, and we'll see you next month.